In today's video, we're growing this empty looking pot into this in just 50 days. Hey everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is my Dioscorea discolor. It is a crazy fast grower and I wasn't exaggerating when I said this was an empty pot just 50 days ago. But proof is in the pudding. Let me show you the journey the plant and I have been through this season. This sad looking pot is my ornamental yam, aka Dioscorea discolor. And it went dormant over winter, which was totally to be expected. But we're nearing spring, days are getting warmer, so I reckon this could come back anytime now. And when it comes back with a vengeance and grows really, really fast. But I haven't repotted this plant in 2 years now. It's been in this pot like last year when it went dormant. I just cut it all back and I didn't do anything, and then it came back. But I'm very curious to find out how many yams are in there. So Dioscorea discolor basically has little yams, like, I don't know the official term for it, and then they just sprout in spring. So exactly like a potato or like a yam would work, right? So I thought in today's video, let's look at what's inside the pot. We give it a fresh medium, and then we're going to monitor this over the next coming weeks or months to see if it's coming back, hopefully. So let's just, empty this out. All right, good root system. A lot of roots. So let's have a look at what I can find in here. Okay, so these are all some sort of dead roots. I'm looking for potatoes, like this. All right, some of these seem to already have a new shoot. Look at this one. And they just propagate themselves. It all started with one little yam. All right, look at this. So this one has a new shoot and some new roots on that shoot already as well. So it's good timing, I think. Another big potato. And I know they're not potatoes. I'm just going to call them potatoes for now, okay? Oh wow, this one is huge. Same over here, new shoot with new healthy roots. Smells very organic. Bradley, what are you doing in the background? Wow. Honestly, like 2 years ago when I potted this up, the potatoes, the yams were tiny. Look at them now. Wow. That's amazing. That's also the best way to propagate them, by the way. Not too sure if you can propagate them by a leaf. I've never tried. I feel like it would be a bit impossible. Alright, I think these are some dried up yams. They didn't survive, which is okay. Don't know if they didn't survive this season or last season, to be honest. Could have been either. Another one. And they have very fine roots, right? So definitely the potting medium would not be as chunky as I use it for my aeroids. And it's a very thirsty plant and it grows really, really fast. Like last year when it came back, it grew really fast over just a couple of months. I can put in some photos or video. So many people didn't believe me. They're like, this is impossible. Why are you lying to us? It's like, no, this is very much possible. It's not an aeroid, so you can't compare the growth to how an aeroid would grow. Also, the mix looks fine to me, so I think I'm just gonna try and repurpose as much of the mix as possible. So I'm just kind of fiddling out these old roots because they could obviously rot away and cause some fungal issues. It's funny, as it gets closer to 5 o'clock, Brett does not leave the little veranda. Can you see him on there? I think he's there. I think it's just in frame because he's worried he's going to miss out on dinner time if he goes too far away. It's like, don't you worry. Last year it came back pretty late. I think it didn't come back till like November. last year. I'm hoping that maybe this year I can trigger it to come back a little bit sooner, so I got a little bit more out of it. Last year when I moved in here, I also put it outside and it was getting too much sun, so it wasn't giving me these beautiful large colorful leaves. They were very bleached and much smaller. Obviously, like if it's getting burned, why would it grow larger leaves? To expose more of it to the sun. So I think this year I'm going to put it in a spot with less sun. Where did bread go? Somewhere, huh? All right, let me fill this back into the pot. I'm also just going to keep it in the same pot. I don't think there's necessarily reason to upsize the pot. Beautiful. So I'll put all the old medium in there. So this is my harvest. Okay, now I'm going to put these in here. Just position them in there. And if I see a shoot, I'll make sure that the shoot points up so it can break through the thing eventually. I might put the smaller ones a little bit closer to the top. So I just got them in here like this. Okay, let me turn it up. Now this is basically, I used my existing aeroid mix. I just put a lot more cocoa peat in it, a little bit more perlite as well, but I want it to be more water retentive. So, oh, nope, that's the bin. Let's go with this one. Perfect. And it will need a trellis as well, but I don't want to give it a huge trellis when the pot is still empty. Once I see the first few shoots poking through the top, looking for something to attach to, I'll then add a trellis in here. Now, usually I don't recommend adding a trellis or a pole in hindsight because you can also disturb a lot of the root system, or you like destroy the root system, but YOLO. Alrighty, and I'm back, and I just realized I also had my aircon on over here. It's a heater as well. I hope the constant of the aircon in the background isn't too much of a problem. Okay, so I've got water in here. I just put a bit of Foliage Focus, and the brown stuff is Root Zone. So Root Zone is a GT product as well that's specifically focusing on healthy roots because, well, they need to grow roots so they can grow a new shoot, right? So let me water this in thoroughly, and I'll just do that in its pot so that it can catch any excess, and then I can give that to my other plants. So while it was dormant over winter, so I kind of like, I think it lost all of its leaves like maybe April-ish. So it's been dormant for about 4 months. I did nothing. I don't water it. I don't do anything. I put it in a dry, dark spot actually. I didn't give it any light because I figured, what's the point? But now that I want it to come back, I'm gonna make sure I keep it watered, and I'm putting it in a bright spot. So we want light and we want warm temperatures, but warm temperatures usually come with light. Now, it doesn't mean that I need to water it much because right now there's nothing to actually use the water. Right? I just don't want it to fully dry out, but I'm not anticipating, specifically if you consider that it's a fairly water retentive mix, and if you consider that it's quite a large pot, I don't think I have to water it all too often, but I don't want it to dry out. Okay, let me just give this to, just give it to my palm here. There we go, we don't want to waste the precious nutrients. So baby, coming through. So over here, I'm in my large west-facing window, which gets amazing afternoon sun. There's going to be more afternoon sun with spring, summer approaching, and it's usually nice and warm because, you know, the sun through the window creates a nice heat. And given that my oxalis is very happy over here and it works in a similar way, right? There's little bulbs and then there's sprout, and then this is the sprout. These are not scientific terms, but I feel like if the oxalis is happy here, the Dioscorea should be happy over here too. So I'll just pop her here. At the same time, it's not the prettiest to look at, so I just kind of cover it by the oxalis a little bit, and I will check in with you when there's something to update you on. That was the first time in 2 years that I actually repotted it while it was dormant, and I think that really did the trick in getting the best out of the plant. The plant came back out of dormancy after the repot pretty quickly, and this is what it looked like at the end of September, so just 50 days ago. Alrighty, and we are back. It's been exactly 1 month that I dug up my Dioscorea discolor and repotted it, and there are some updates. There is one shoot over here that is going really, really strong. Apart from that, I cannot see anything else, which is a bit unusual. It was actually a bit earlier than I expected, and the last few times there were multiple shoots emerging at the same time. But doesn't really matter. I'm pretty happy that there is a shoot overall and it's looking really big. So I feel like it's gonna give me really big, nice, juicy leaves. I've watered it once in that month, or like a half time. It wasn't like a full thorough watering. I just kind of wet the surface a little bit halfway through that month, just because it was actually really, really hot over the last fortnight or so. Today it's a little colder again. I'm not happy. Oh, I'm lying. There's a second one coming here. Can you see the second one there, right where my finger is? Awesome. Okay, even better. Oh, and a third one. Is this the third one here? This little thing. All right, I'm happy with that. So it's time to take it to the next level. This plant is growing really, really fast. It grows very similar to like a sweet potato vine, for example. It's gonna try and find anything and attach itself to, kind of does like lassos around it until it finds something, attaches to it, and then it takes over. It grows really, really fast. Every year when I post something about this plant, I get lots of comments telling me like, stop lying, but honestly, these plants grow really, really lush within just a couple of months or even weeks sometimes. What I basically want to do is I want to give this a trellis so that it has something to attach to. So this is the trellis that I'm going to get it. It's basically like a veggie trellis I got from Bunnings, and I bought it twice and I just mounted them on top of each other using cable ties, so trellis 1, trellis 2, and then it's just connected to a black garden stake just to give it a little bit more stability and hold these two together. Now, in a perfect world, I would have already done this ages ago or when I potted it up, because now obviously putting this in here, I'm running risk of ruining one of the bulbs, ruining some of the roots and or shoots that it's already been producing, but it's pretty intrusive having this here, and I wasn't too sure how long it's going to take. If I would have known that it's only going to take a month for them to reshoot, I would have probably done it straight away. But last year and the year before, they didn't really come back to life till like November. So I was expecting it to maybe take another month or two. But it is what it is. So I'm thinking this big shoot, I want to be the center of the trellis. So I'm gonna pop this right in the center of the pot and just hope for the best. Now the good thing is with this trellis, the two on the outside don't actually go in. They're just kind of on the outside to secure it a little further. So I'm minimizing the risk of something going wrong, because really just the middle stake could ruin something. So I'm not gonna do anything with this. It's gonna find its way by itself. Let's check in once there's updates to share with you, but I'm really excited that this is coming back so quickly and early this year. Alrighty, and we're back. Really, really quick update. It's only been 1 week since the last clip, and the plant was kind of just showing the first signs of growth. Well, look at this main vine. It's already up to here now, and it's getting really, really thick. On top of that, I can see shoot number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I can see 8 little shoots coming out at the moment. So, and you can probably see Brett's tail moving through the frame. So this is really exploding really, really quickly at the moment. And hello, my baby. I actually shot a time-lapse this week over the course of 4 days. I watched this main vine. Come on, baby, you're hiding the plant. I watched this main vine grow up this pole over 4 days. So let me put on the side over here, let me put on that time-lapse. And it's crazy. You can really see how it's almost like swings its arm around and tries to hit this pole, and it tries a couple of times until it's long enough to really wrap itself around it. And then once it wrapped itself around it, it almost like, it looks a little sexual, to be honest. It almost like pounced the pole to like screw itself up, if that makes sense. But you know what I mean. It almost like humps the pole to like hump itself up the pole. That's what it looked like to me. But yeah, so now I'm just waiting for leaves. I mean, I can see where all the leaves will be, but none of them have inflated yet. But yeah, this is moving really, really quickly. So I'm excited to give you an update in a couple of weeks' time. Alrighty, hello. It's only been 1 week since the last update and the plant is now here, which means she is, let me go back a little more. This is the top of its pole. So she's here today. So I reckon by the end of the day, she will have reached the top of the trellis. Just 9 days ago, I started that time-lapse where it started twisting itself around the pole at the bottom. So let's make it 10 days. Within just 10 days, this plant has grown up its trellis, which is about 190 centimeters tall or so. So very fast grower. But it hasn't grown any leaves yet. I put some B-roll in there. You can see that at the bottom, there's many, many more shoots coming out and they're starting to have really small leaves, but the main shoot hasn't grown any leaves yet. I can see where there will be. I can see all of these leaves, but I suppose right now it's really focusing on just climbing as fast as possible, as far as possible, and taking over whatever structure it can find, I suppose. But yeah, I can probably count about 15 or so shoots at the pot right now, so they're all just going to find their way as well. They eventually start attaching to each other and so on as well. So really exciting days, and I will check in with you again once it's a little more visually pleasing to look at. But I thought it was still quite impressive to see how fast nature can move once the conditions are right? Or once it had that trigger, there's no stopping it. Hello, I'm here, and it is exactly 3 weeks since the last video, and yes, it has definitely grown some leaves in the meantime. It actually is very, very messy, and I'll show you a little bit closer. I really had to move you quite far away to get all of it in frame, and I'm pretty sure it's still not even all of it. But yeah, it has definitely started growing. Hey, don't destroy my couch. But yeah, it definitely has started growing a lot of leaves, and there's heaps more to come. It's definitely thriving at the moment, and I'll show you the mess in the back. But I also wanted to show you this. And I know the light isn't that great all that far back into the room over here. Hey Bradley, come on. Can you see how beautiful in red these back sides are? This plant is just so stunning to look at, front and back. So let me give you a few close-ups. Alrighty, so those are the leaves at the very bottom, and they're starting to show this nice little, almost like camouflage, and they show this nice silver, like, I don't know, silver pattern in the middle. And look how cute all of this veining is. The veining is kind of pinkish. Yes. And then of course the backs, beautiful. Absolutely love these leaves. So these are obviously the oldest ones, and then as we progress, these are a little younger. They come out a little more purple first, and then eventually they should start showing more of this pattern kind of. But look how stunning these leaves are. Absolutely one of my favorites. And these leaves just grow so fast. Now this plant reached the top so many times, like this thick stem, for example, I kind of twisted around and back down again and back up again and so on, and back down and up and whatnot. So it is getting messy. And let me show you from the back as well. You can see there's so many shoots that now came out of this pot. There's a new one here. Let me help it out a bit. There you go. Hello, baby. And yes, you can see there's like vines upon vines upon vines, kind of just climbing on top of each other. on here as well as on here. See more and more leaves unfurling, and I absolutely love that pink. And you can see how messy it's getting here with this stem. So I think eventually I'll just have to cut it to stop it from growing more. Alrighty, that I think was a great effort in just 3 weeks. So let's see how long it takes until the trellis is full. And this is her now. She's honestly growing every single day, and you can still see that some of these leaves over here are still, you know, they got a little bit more room to grow as well. You can tell by that really dark red color. Eventually they fade to more like a mosaic color. So I can tell that these have a little bit more inflating to do, but I'm pretty happy with this progress, and I thought 50 days is a good deadline to give this plant to finalize this update. So, what have I learned about this plant over the last 3.5 years of growing it, and more specifically, what have I learned about this plant this season? First of all, I actually think it really appreciates having a dormant phase. You can technically avoid a dormant phase by growing it inside in warm, good conditions all year round, but I actually think giving it that dormant phase makes it come back stronger than ever. The dormant phase, I personally kind of introduced the dormant phase to it when I just noticed that there's no more new growth, or the growth is getting really skinny and the older leaves are just starting to deteriorate. I then just cut everything off and I stop watering the substrate. And that's it. I do absolutely nothing over winter. I just keep it in a dry spot, and then when spring comes, I dig out the actual yams and I give them fresh substrate, and that's when I then start watering again, and then that watering, the new substrate, and then the increasing temperatures really bring it back out of dormancy. This year it came back out of dormancy much earlier than the last couple of years, and I reckon that is because I actually gave it fresh substrate. But we also had a really hot spring this year, so that would have probably contributed to that as well. Secondly, it's a really thirsty plant, but keep in mind how many leaves it has. At the beginning, when it only had a stem, it wasn't using all too much water. Like, what is it going to use all of that water for? So I watered quite conservatively at the beginning because I don't want to cause the actual yams to rot away. But once it has leaves, and now it has a lot of really large leaves, and they're really skinny, these leaves do not maintain any moisture well. This could dry out really quickly. So at the moment I'm watering it every couple of days because, well, it has so many leaves. If I would not water it enough, it wouldn't have the capability to actually inflate these tiny leaves into these really large leaves really quickly. So once it has a lot of leaves, it's a really thirsty plant, and to be honest, I don't really think you can overwater this plant. It uses a lot of it. Given that I water it so frequently, I do not fertilize with every watering. I fertilize once a week using my GT Foliage Focus as always, but I don't want to fertilize with every watering because that would just cause mineral buildup. It would just be too frequent considering the amount of water that it actually needs. Now, I do recommend giving it a trellis to climb on. It will totally want to escape the trellis. I mean, look at this over here, and I'll insert some close-ups as well. You can see how often I twisted this vine around the trellis to kind of keep it compact, but give it something to climb on, and don't be afraid to cut bits off as well. Eventually I will just have to start cutting off these offshoots because it's just gonna get messier and messier up there, not necessarily making the plant look any nicer, but quite the opposite instead. So keep that in mind. If you have this in a greenhouse, for example, this can take over and just start climbing on everything, every single leaf in between the fenestrations of my Adansonii, every moss pole, everything is going to be taken over by this plant. So be careful with that. It might at times grow a little bit too fast. That's why I like giving it a compact little trellis. It's large enough for the plant to really show me its full potential, but I'm also containing it to a smallish footprint, right? So that it doesn't outshine all of my other plants. If you give it too much direct sunlight, it will bleach out the leaves and you will not get these really nice dark colors. When I grew it outdoors at towards the back end of last year, it just grew really small leaves and they're really pale in color. So I prefer growing this indoors where it gets bright filtered light from a west facing window, and it definitely likes the heat. So if you want this to come out of dormancy earlier, make sure that you have it in a nice warm sunny spot. I have never had any pest issues on this, but to be honest, it has so many leaves. If there were any pest issues, I would probably just start cutting the infested leaves off rather than trying to treat it, because this plant has the ability to just grow really fast again, right? So I wouldn't be too worried about that, but I personally haven't experienced any pest issues with them. And from a humidity perspective, it doesn't seem to be too fast. It's right in front of, it grows right here usually, so right there, and right in front of a west-facing window. That window is open a lot, so a lot of dryish air would come in, so it doesn't seem to be minding a bit of a draft, and it doesn't seem to mind cooler, lower humidity ranges, but it just doesn't like the cold, right? So if the draft would be cold, then that could potentially be detrimental to the plant. Right, so basically, in a nutshell, highly recommend growing this plant. I think it is super rewarding to grow, and I know a lot of people don't like plants that go dormant because they want a plant that looks nice all year round. I, at this stage, have so many plants. I actually really appreciate that this plant goes dormant during winter and another plant can shine in its spot instead. And then I'm looking forward to it coming back every single year. And I really appreciate that period that I just covered in this video. That's the exciting period to me. Seeing how fast it can grow, seeing how crazy it kind of swings itself up that trellis, like that's exciting for me to watch. Once it looks like this, now I just really want to contain it, keep it looking like this, but I'm not really planning on expanding the growth further and so on. So I feel like I shared the best part of this journey with you in this video. Alrighty, I think it's time to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and leave a nice comment, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.